Well, the Oscars are around the corner, and it's that time of year when we reflect on the Academy, the decisions they make and will make, and judge them for it. And while the Oscars have their flaws, and I pointed them out myself in a previous list, I decided to take a different approach this year and correct some of the misconceptions a lot of people have about the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Here are 8 such misconceptions. The Academy is a hive mind, with the winners decided in a boardroom. It's easy to think of the Academy as a collective group, deciding together who should be nominated and win. Interestingly enough, the first Academy Awards were decided by a small panel of judges, enough that the Academy's co-founder, Louis B. Mayer, persuaded them to give the Most Unique and Artistic Production Award to Sunrise rather than the crowd. However, nowadays, there are over 6,000 individual voters with unique opinions, some rather out there and controversial, which publications print in honest ballot columns for the sake of clicks, and others more refined and conservative in their tastes. The Academy contains a wide range of members with different tastes and filmmaking backgrounds, including the likes of Steven Spielberg, Ava DuVernay, John Lasseter, Roger Deakins, Danny Elfman, the Wayans brothers, and even Steve Guttenberg. The Academy only consists of old white men. Rather, it mostly consists of old white men. Not exactly diverse, but the reason for this is simple. When you accept a membership into the Academy, it's for life. So people who were invited to join in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, eras where Hollywood employment rates were far more skewed to male and white, are still members today. However, they are making huge efforts to have a more balanced membership, with plans to reach a more diverse makeup by the year 2020. The official Academy website even included this handy bar graph with the press release of the people they invited in 2016. They are trying, but it's going to take a little while. The Academy voters are actors and directors, I think. Well, that's a start, theoretical person. The Oscars are voted on by 17 branches, consisting of people in various fields in the film industry. They are actors, casting directors, cinematographers, costume designers, production designers, directors, documentarians, executives, film editors, makeup artists, musicians, producers, public relations, short filmmakers and animators, sound people, visual effects artists, and writers. The branches, with their own specific categories, pick the nominees, so actors vote on the nominations in the acting categories, writers nominate the screenplay categories, animators vote for Best Animated Feature, composers and songwriters pick the music nominees, and you get the gist. Meanwhile, the nominees for Best Foreign Language Film, which doesn't have its own branch, are selected by members who volunteer to watch the submitted films. And every single member of the Academy gets to vote on the nominees for Best Picture. When the nominations are announced, everyone gets to vote on the winners. Wait, what do you mean they're not Oscar winners? For all of the people we know as Academy Award winners, there are those assumed to have Oscars, but the official record shows they don't. This is most evident in the foreign film category. Even though the director is the one to accept the Oscar during the ceremony and are usually the ones to keep it, the Academy officially recognizes the country who submitted the film as the recipient. So even though 3 of Ingmar Bergman's films won the Best Foreign Film Oscar, he never officially won a competitive Oscar in his lifetime. I know, it's strange. For many years, the animated short Oscar went to the producer or studio head rather than the director. That's how Walt Disney was able to accumulate his record number of wins and nominations. 7 Tom and Jerry cartoons won the Oscar, but the statuette was awarded to Fred Quimby, the head of MGM's animation department, which greatly annoyed William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, who actually directed and were responsible for many of those shorts. Speaking of which, Mel Brooks is often falsely listed as an Oscar winner for the short film The Critic, despite only writing and doing a voice for the cartoon, and the film's director and producer, Ernest Pinto, being the one to receive the award. Singers are also occasionally attributed as winning the original song Oscar, even though it only goes to the songwriter. So despite singing Oscar-winning songs, Idina Menzel, Celine Dion, and Doris Day are not Oscar winners. Al Gore has also never won an Oscar. He was the subject of An Inconvenient Truth and was invited to take the stage with the film's director, but he did not actually take the Oscar home with him. Even the honest trailer for The Wolf of Wall Street made that mistake. The Academy snubbed so-and-so. Whenever a performance or film does not get nominated in a certain category, it's often categorized as a snub. Guess what? Snubs don't actually exist. All sorts of conspiracy theories pop up about why it wasn't nominated or didn't win, when the solution is probably really simple. The other nominees just got more votes. This goes back to my first point about how the Academy consists of multiple individual voters. They did not all get together and decide, hey, let's not nominate this person, or let's continue to never give them an Oscar. Is there bias and favoritism at play? Sure, but we as a species are biased and have personal favorites. But there's no malicious intent when somebody is not nominated. Until last year, the talk for a long time was, oh, the Academy hates Leonardo DiCaprio. They don't want to give him an Oscar. No, that's absurd. Other performances just got more votes the years he had films in contention. But I'm sure he got a fair share of votes in previous years. Otherwise, he would not have 5 acting nominations to his credit. And even though he was not nominated for these films, I'm sure a good number of people in the actors branch included his performances in Titanic, Catch Me If You Can, and Django Unchained on their nomination ballots. Now that DiCaprio has won, the overdue narrative has now moved on to Amy Adams, who has 5 nominations and has not won yet. And yes, she probably got a good number of votes for Arrival, just not as much as the 5 actresses who were nominated. Although, compared to other nominees, 5 nominations and no wins is nothing. This year, sound mixer Kevin O'Connell is celebrating his 21st Oscar nomination for Hacksaw Ridge. He has never won. Again, not out of malice, especially since only actor names show up on the ballot sent out to voters. He's just always been up against tough competition. Which kind of brings me to the next misconception. That Oscar nomination and win makes no sense. Yes, we often look back at previous decisions made by Academy voters and wonder what they were thinking that year. But an important thing to remember is the Oscar nominations tend to reflect the time they were voted on, and actually make a lot of sense when put into historical context. For instance, Singin' in the Rain is now widely considered the greatest movie musical of all time, which causes people to look back and scratch their heads and wonder how it only got 2 Oscar nominations, neither of which was for Best Picture. The reason is simple. While that film's stature has grown over time, in 1952 it was just seen as another Gene Kelly musical, and An American in Paris had won Best Picture the year before, so it was not the big deal it is now. That's just one of many examples of odd Oscar omissions that make a lot more sense when seen with historical perspective. Going back to DiCaprio, when you see who he lost to on his previous nominations, it's not unusual why they got more votes. The year he was nominated for What's Eating Gilbert Grape, his competition was Ralph Fiennes in the Best Picture frontrunner, and veteran actor Tommy Lee Jones in a popular Best Picture nominee. The Aviator, Jamie Foxx's impersonation of Ray Charles, was a widely recognized transformation into a music icon who had recently passed away. Blood Diamond? He was competing with himself in The Departed for that nomination, and then had to face off against 8-time nominee Peter O'Toole and Forrest Whitaker's acclaimed turn as Idi Amin. The Wolf of Wall Street? Matthew McConaughey, transitioning away from romantic comedies and back to serious dramatic acting, was a huge narrative at the time. Do you have to agree with any of those choices? Of course not, but a lot of them are understandable when looked at in context. The Golden Globes and Critics' Choice Awards have a huge influence on the Oscars. Not really. Maybe certain nominations inspire Academy voters to put some films higher on their screening priority list, but when predicting the Oscars and making sense of their choices, one has to remember it only consists of people in the film industry. Critics are not members of the Academy, and of the 90-odd voters in the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the organization that awards the Golden Globes, only one member, a former actress turned journalist, is also in the Academy. That's why the Guild Awards and the BAFTAs give a better indication of what direction the Oscar result might go in, because they actually do share significant memberships with the Academy. We have even seen films like The Social Network and Boyhood do well with critics' organizations, only for the actual film industry to throw more support towards The King's Speech and Birdman. That's something to keep in mind when thinking about your Oscar predictions. And finally, the Oscars is just a popularity contest. Why don't they give more nominations to these underseen gems? Or, the Academy is elitist and snobby. Why do they always ignore popular movies? Well, which one is it? Is it a popularity contest or an elitist club? It cannot be both. As I've said before, there are certain biases among Academy voters, but they've shown to honor both popular, widely seen films and movies that don't get wide releases. Last year, Mad Max Fury Road, of all things, and The Martian got nominated for Best Picture, along with little-seen works like Brooklyn and Room. This year, populist fare like Hidden Figures, La La Land, and Arrival sit on the Best Picture ballot, next to the independent films Moonlight and Manchester by the Sea. I always find it unusual when I see people complain they never heard of the films that are nominated. It really does not take much effort to pay attention to a lot of the films that open each week. And I think the Academy has done a decent job lately of honoring both blockbuster fare and smaller films. If you want a popularity contest, that's what the MTV Movie Awards are for. You want to see an example of an elitist group that intentionally doesn't nominate popular films? Look up the International Cinephile Society. The Academy Awards are neither. Do they have problems with that system? Sure. Are there choices I disagree with? Absolutely. But they're not this evil award show trying to bring down the little man they're often thought of. It's an organization with many voices and ideas, and there's a reason it's such a big deal in Hollywood. Okay, money is also why. See you next time.